about balance perspective. Those of you who were there last time, tell me if it was mind-blowing in the chat window. Type in MB, mind-blowing in the chat window. That was totally crazy. Some of you had more energy that evening, and after Dr. John DeMartini had left, we spoke for another half an hour, 45 minutes. The sharing just went on and on and on. So today is going to be even better than that, I promise you that. So let's get ready with your notebooks, with your pens. Be ready with a lot of notes to be taken. All of you, let's get ready to invite Dr. DeMartini now. I'm inviting him on video. And 1, 2, and 3. Everyone, please unmute. Say I love you, and thank you to Dr. DeMartini for coming in again with us today.
I love you. Thank you, Dr.
Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Love you, Doctor. Thank you, Doctor.
Doctor, we can't see you. We can probably hear you, but can't see you.
I'm not sure what happened here because we've got the my says that my video's on, but it's not showing up.
Would you like to just simply log out and log in once again?
Let me log in and let's do that again because it's not showing up.
Sure. In the meantime, you know what you have to do. Time for double happiness, and then clear up that energy by doing a little bit of what? Oh, no. So do it right now. I'm sorry, please forgive me. Thank you, I love you. And I'm sure in the next 30 seconds, Dr. DeMartini will be logged in again. We'll be able to see him crystal clear. Yep, he's here. And I can see him. And I've made him co-host. Doctor, can you see me?
Let's see. Let me try a different camera. Let me see if there's a different camera coming.
Sure. Yeah, now your video is off.
Not sure what's happening here, but it's not showing up. It showed up just a few minutes ago when we were talking.
Yeah, we were talking for about 10 minutes.
It says, okay. Hitesh, I'm not sure what the deal is.
Does it give you any error that you can tell me about?
No, it just says the video's on. According to my thing, there it is.
You were there for a second.
You were there, Doctor.
We could see
Let's
you
try it again.
Yeah. Is there a USB? Did you plug the USB?
I don't know what the reason is. It was working just for a second. Now it's not working.
Yeah, is it an external camera which connects to your laptop, or is it an internal laptop device?
It's
Can you hear me, Doctor? Doctor, are you there? I think he's fixing it. Maybe you could try again, log out and log in one more time, Doctor.
Should I ask Larissa to help?
You could do that. He just logged out. If not, then we'll give him a link on his mobile and he can log in from there. Don't worry, guys, he'll be back.
Clarissa said that he logs in from laptop always.
Yeah, I thought so.
Recording stopped.
Let's begin that hope. No. I'm sure he'll be back, and we are doing the session with him fully crystal clear on video on, and had a great session today with Dr. DeMartini on balance perspective. And
host is not allowing participants to unmute. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
We can hear you. We can hear you.
Okay.
You should be able to unmute now.
My video says that it's on, so I don't know what.
Doctor, would you be able to do me a favor? Can you restart your laptop? Or also, do tell me, is it an external camera plugged into your laptop, or is it an internal laptop camera?
It's an external Logitech.
External Logitech. So the best way would be just plug out that device once and connect it back. That works.
Yeah, I did that a moment ago, but it seemed to get it.
Because it worked for a second at that time. Sometimes it's a USB issue.
Is there any other USB slot, Mitesh, in the laptop? You can try
It was
that.
working when we got on. Once you brought everybody in, it was working prior to when you brought everybody in. When you brought everybody in, it shut off.
I could see that the camera got shy, but I'm sure we can cajole it back.
Mitesh, Dr. John, is there any other USB port in the laptop? It can be the USB port which must have gone.
I can pull the other one out and swap.
Yeah, let's try that. And after you swap it, you'll have to go back to the Zoom settings and make sure the camera selected is the USB device.
Or if the laptop has the camera, we can use that also.
Okay. It says now it should be on Logitech. And it's on Logitech, so I don't know. Logitech Brio, let's try it.
Okay, so let's do one. Oh, yeah,
We got it.
Here you
There you are.
We got it.
All right, you got it.
We got it.
We always have an adventure session with you. I remember the breakthrough experience.
Yeah, I normally delegate technology, so it shows where I'm ignorant.
Recording in progress.
All right, so one more time, everyone. Let's unmute, show him your love, and say thank you to him for coming once again over here.
Thank you, Dr.
Sir,
John.
you Martin is once again coming here. Welcome, sir.
Thank you so much.
And thank you so much again, once again, Dr. Dematni, for coming again over here, giving us your love, giving us your wisdom. And we can't wait for today's session. Super excited for it.
Thank you. I appreciate your patience on this one. We had fun on the technology.
Yes, we did.
Well, good morning, everyone. Or after, no, I guess it's evening there. Good
Yeah,
evening,
it's
everyone.
evening here. Yes.
I'm in Maputo, Mozambique, Africa, coming to you from my ship here. And so we, I believe we have a session on balance and the law of attraction.
Yes. So balance perspective, how it connects to law of attraction.
Is there anything you want to ask or say first before I move through it?
All yours, sir. All yours.
Okay. Years ago, I was studying in my undergraduate studies fields of the sciences, mathematics, physics, chemistry, neurology, etc. And I noticed that in physics and mathematics and in chemistry, there were balanced equations. And in neurology, I found out that Walter Cannon, in his book, The Wisdom of the Body, talked about homeostasis.
Right.
Now, everybody here has noticed that when it gets hot out, you can sweat. And when it gets cold, you can shiver, although you probably don't get a lot of cold there, unless you go up in the mountains. And your body returns any perturbation, any disturbance, back to a stable temperature and a stable blood glucose level and a stable blood pH. And so our body has a wisdom to stabilize anything that destabilizes us. But our perceptions of life can destabilize us. If we perceive somebody and they're challenging us and we start resenting them, we can perceive more drawbacks and benefits, more negatives than positives, more disadvantage than advantage. And we can perturb our psychology and therefore physiology and create symptoms in our body to let us know that we have an alarming stimulus that's imbalanced. We can also find ourselves infatuated with somebody and highly attracted to them and notice our hearts palpitating and we're sweaty palms, and we can get symptoms to let us know we have imbalance. The symptoms of your body are feedback mechanisms to let us know whenever we have an imbalanced ratio of perceptions. And the symptoms that are being generated as a result of that are mechanisms to try to bring the body back into homeostasis. And if we can get back to homeostasis, we're stable. That's our objective. So for years, studying these fields, I was fascinated by every one of the various feedback reflexes in the body that brings this balance. And I realized that our body has a wisdom that our minds don't always have. It has a wisdom to know what to do. It knows how to heal. It knows how to duplicate cells. It knows how to keep physiology. And no PhD, no Professor Emeritus, no Nobel Prize winner, even 100 of them put in a room can outdo what a cell can do. We could take 1,000 people who are experts at conferences on the cell, and all of their knowledge would be an insignificant, infinitesimal compared to the wisdom of the body. The body knows things and knows how to repair things over eons of time that it's evolved and developed. And so anytime we, in our minds, perturb this and create symptoms, our body's wisdom is to get the symptoms to make us aware of our misperception of reality. If we bring our perceptions of reality back into balance consciously, our symptoms subside. I've been working with the physiology for 5 decades, almost 4.5 decades. And I have seen when we ask the right questions and bring our perceptions back into balance, how healing occurs and how homeostasis returns and how the body stops its symptoms because it doesn't need the symptoms to remind us of the imbalance. So there's a wisdom, and now the question is how does that relate to the law of attraction and this balance? And this is a very fascinating topic that I want to keep practical because I don't want to get too esoteric with it, although I can. We have 2 types of systems of thinking in our brain. We have systems 1 thinking for emergencies and survival when all of a sudden we're starving or about to be eaten, or we're highly supported or highly challenged and really imbalanced in our ratios of perceptions. We have systems 1, which is the subcortical amygdala center. And this systems 1 is a fast responding, feeling and emotionally oriented. You feel before you think. And if a spider jumps on you, you go, oh, and you feel and react before you have time to think. And this system is there for emergencies, for survival. But we don't want to just survive, we want to thrive. And there's another system called systems 2 thinking. And systems 2 thinking is the forebrain, the cortical area, the medial prefrontal cortex, and it is not involved in emotional imbalances, it is involved in objective wisdom and balance. This systems 2 thinking is the one of self-actualization, self-governance, strategic planning, executing plans and achieving, inspired vision, homeostasis, and balance. This one is the leader. They call it the guardian angel inside the body of the brain. Some researchers and scientists call it. But it is the self-governing center. in Scientific American, October edition, 2022, there's a magnificent article talking that the medial prefrontal cortex, this executive center, this governing center, is the seat of the soul. It is the seat of our authentic being. Fantastic articles on it. There are others, articles, a new article just 2 days ago, talking about the transcendent mind using the medial prefrontal cortex and the ventral medial prefrontal cortex for self-governance and mastery. When we live according to our highest value, the blood glucose and oxygen goes into the forebrain and goes into this executive functioning area, and systems 2 thinking comes online, and it makes us more reasonable and makes us think before we react, and makes us conscious, fully conscious, instead of conscious and unconscious, with bias and emotion. And when we do that, we're able to see both sides of an experience simultaneously instead of just one side. For instance, if you are married, you'll know that there's times when your spouse does things that you like, and other times they do things you dislike.
That's right.
And maybe when you first met them, you thought there was going to be more likes than dislikes. But after time, you find out they have both sides, things you like and dislike.
Yes.
So the readable center knows that, expects that, and acts from an understanding of wisdom of that balance. The executive center governs the amygdala, the systems 1, and the amygdala wants to avoid pain and seek pleasure. It wants to avoid predator and seek prey. It wants to avoid disadvantage and seek advantage. It wants to avoid challenge and seek support and ease. And so it's striving for something that's not going to occur. If you're in a relationship and you expect a positive without a negative, you have a false expectation, an unrealistic expectation that makes you angry and aggressive, makes you feel betrayed and feel you want to blame somebody. It makes you criticize, it makes you feel critical and challenged. It makes you despaired and depressed, makes you want to exit and escape, makes you frustrated and feel futile. It gives you negative responses because you have an unrealistic expectation on a human being that's going to have both sides. If I went to you and I said to you, sometimes you're nice, sometimes you're mean, you would say yes. If I said you're always nice and never mean, you would say, no, that's not true. If you're always mean, never nice, that's not true. But if I said to you, sometimes you're nice, sometimes you're mean, you would immediately go, yes, that's true. Because you innately, intuitively know that you have a balance. So anytime your perceptions are not in that reasoned, objective, balanced state, your physiology, even your epigenetics, will create symptomatology that are symptoms to let you know you don't have a balanced orientation, to try to get you to ask new questions, to make you conscious of the parts you're unconscious of, so you can see things back in balance, to bring stability back to your life. Because extreme volatile emotions make you unstable, but objective reason makes you stable and present.
Makes sense.
So your body is doing everything it can to try to heal you. Your body is trying to do everything it can to keep you objective. It's trying to do everything it can to have what we call sustainable fair exchange. Now let me elaborate on the relationship, and I'll tie all these things together as we go. If you infatuate with somebody and put them on a pedestal and minimize yourself, you have an imbalanced ratio of perceptions of them, and you have an imbalanced ratio of perception of you. You're minimizing you and exaggerating them. You're conscious of their positive, unconscious of their negative, and conscious of your negative and unconscious of your positive. So you have an imbalanced ratio of perceptions. When you do, you'll tend to put them on a pedestal, inject their values into your life, and try to live in their values, not your own. And in the process of doing that, you'll eventually build up resentment because you don't want to live in their values. You want to be loved for who you are. So you build up resentment to break the infatuation so you can see enough of the downsides and take them off the pedestal and bring yourself back up. So your brain will automatically, if you're infatuated with somebody, build eventually resentment, take them off the pedestal and build yourself back up to get it back into homeostasis, back into balance. where you have fair exchange. Because if you try to sacrifice for them altruistically, you'll eventually build up resentment. And it's a non-sustainable dynamic. And if they try to get something for nothing, and you try to give something for nothing, eventually the relationship breaks down. Now that can occur in your health. That's an imbalance in health, the symptoms. It can occur in your relationship at home. It can be a relationship in social, and it can be also in your business and clients. If you infatuate with a client and sacrifice your profits for a client, you'll eventually resent that, and you feel there's no profit. If you automatically sacrifice your relationship for your employees and over-exaggerate them and minimize yourself, you'll have anarchy, and then eventually you'll end up resenting them. And so you get symptoms to let you know that that doesn't work in relationship, in business, or in social, or in family, or in health. Because nature wants this equanimity, this balancing state. If you resent somebody and you look down on them, you now are conscious of their downsides and unconscious of their upsides. And you now get proud and cocky, and you're conscious of your upsides and unconscious of your downsides. So now you're too proud to admit what you see in them is inside you, and you talk down to them, and you try to get them to live in your values, and you find out it's futile. Everybody here has probably been angry with their spouse and tried to demand for them to do this and do that, and expect them to live in your values, and you found you got humbled by it, because they can't live in your values, they live in their own values. So if you do that in relationship to business, your customer's not going to listen to you because you think you know more than the customer. Your employees are going to get unions to fight against you for collective bargaining because you're not meeting their needs, and you don't end up making an income. So if you exaggerate yourself and minimize your customer, you don't have a source of income. If you minimize yourself and you exaggerate them, you don't take in, you devalue yourself and don't keep the income. But if you put those in balance, and you have a sustainable fair exchange, and you do a service, and it meets their demands, and you're not exaggerating, minimizing, you have a sustainable fair exchange. And there's a study you can study called equity theory that elaborates on this and shows that everybody has a built-in intuition for fair exchange. Now, when you're in that state, you have the maximum potential to stabilize a relationship, so you get the love that you're striving for. To stabilize the business relationship, so you get the income and the success and achievements that you're looking for. You stabilize your social, so you get the leadership position that you're looking for. So automatically, when you live by priority and you become more objective and you wake up the executive center and get more stable and have more realistic, balanced expectations and perspectives and perceptions, you overall empower your life. Now, what's interesting is, whatever's highest on your value, your identity revolves around. So that's the most authentic you, the stable you that loves, that sees both sides, that embraces both sides, and communicates fairly with people, with respect and dialogue. And that place automatically emerges when we're living by our highest value. And our highest value is our identity, our authentic self. So the second we live by priority, we automatically now have the highest probability of obtaining and achieving what we're striving for. Therefore, we maximize the law of attraction because we attract clients that want to do business with us. We attract loved ones that we're looking for, that we want to love. We attract social influence that we want because we're meeting their needs. Nobody goes to work for the sake of a company. They go to work to fulfill what their values are, highest values are. Nobody goes into a marriage, for the sake of just a marriage. They go in there to fulfill what their values are. They're going through and ticking off boxes and making sure that it meets their needs. And if all of a sudden you respect them and care about them as much as you care about you equally, you meet their needs, but not at the expense of yours altruistically and not at the expense of theirs narcissistically, but in fair exchange. Sustainable fair exchange is one of the keys of mastering life in every area. Now, the moment you have that state, your physiology doesn't have to create symptoms because you now have a balanced orientation. So you don't have the physical symptoms that are there. You don't have to distort epigenetically in the codes. You don't have all the emotional baggage that's draining you. Because if you infatuate with somebody, you can't get them out of your mind and they run you. If you resent somebody, you can't get them out of your mind, they run you. When you love somebody, you run you. And in the process of you running you, the authentic you comes through. And that's where the law of attraction is maximized. That's why the law of attraction is maximized only in your highest value. If you try to set, let's say you meet somebody and you put them on a pedestal and you exaggerate how important they are, and then you minimize yourself, and then you inject their values and try to be like them. You try to imitate them, you try to envy them, you wish you could be like them or whatever. The moment you try to be somebody you're not, and you try to be second at being somebody else, and minimize yourself, you put yourself into the amygdala, systems one thinking. You then strive to get one-sidedness, not two-sidedness. You now are having unrealistic expectations. You now don't activate the information that comes into your senses are not seen. Therefore, you don't maximize the law of attraction because you're not seeing the opportunities, because you're looking for a fantasy, an unrealistic expectation, and you're subjectively biased, where you have the greatest number of conflicts and wars and challenges in relationships and in clients and staff and in society. The biases and prejudices are in the amygdala, not in the executive center. And all the conflict space are there. So by living by our highest value, by awakening the executive function, by having self-governance, not letting impulses and instincts and infatuation, resentments run our life, by seeing a balanced orientation, by having sustainable fair exchange, we maximize every one of the areas of our life. We also, because the law of attraction is maximal at the area of our highest value. Again, if you have a mother and she goes to the store and the mall and her highest value is raising children, and then she's got 3 children under the age of 5, if she goes to the mall, because her highest value is her children, she will see children's items in the mall. She'll filter out information and see the children's items because it's highest on her value. But she won't see business materials. She won't see fitness materials. She won't see things that are lower on her values. So when you live by highest values, you not only bring the most balance, you bring the most fair exchange, but you also maximize your awareness, your retention of information, the knowledge that you accumulate, and you're more likely to act because you spontaneously act on what you value most. That's where you don't need external motivation. Yes.
That was amazing, Doctor. Would it be possible, just like last time, to give us some stories of your students who created breakthrough experiences, attracted something amazing in their life, in health, relationship, career, and money, when they started balancing who they are, and if some of them are something groundbreaking, some emotional things which seems like, okay, that should have not happened, but it happened because they balanced themselves. That could teach us a lot from those stories of your students, please.
Sure. I just wrote an article for Jet Set Magazine. I write for Jet Set Magazine in America. And I just wrote one, and I just sent it off last night. So they'll take the story that I shared with that. Recently, there was a gentleman, and he asked if I could consult with him. And he said, I've been in business for 3 years. No, pardon. I've been in business for many years, but for the last 3 years, my business has plateaued. It hasn't grown. And I don't know what I'm doing. I need some help. And I said, okay, this is the primary, is this the highest priority thing that's on your plate that you wanted to consult with? Yes. I just can't seem to get past this plateau. I've hit this ceiling, and I want to go past that. And so I asked him a question. If all of a sudden you were to double your business, and you were to go through the plateau, what are you frightened of? What are you frightened that's going to happen if all of a sudden you did? And he stopped and he looked and he stared into space for a moment. And then he said, I'm afraid that my wife would divorce me. I said, that's interesting. I said, and why would you say that? It said, because I'm sometimes working so hard, and if I was to do more hours into the work, she would just start being angry as hell, and she says, I'm not seeing the kids, I'm not being around her, and she would probably leave me. And I said, where did you get the idea she would? He said, I have 3 friends that all of a sudden skyrocketed in business, got really cocky, did not respect the wife, did not provide for the wife in the needs that she had, and they divorced. Those three men all ended up in divorce, and they ended up losing their fortunes and almost their businesses. And he says, that scared the daylights out of me, and I've got that in my brain, associated in my brain. And so when I think about growing my business, I'm thinking of the pain of that makes me not want to go and do my more business. So he had associated that if I expanded my business past a certain point, I would not know how to do it in such a way without it undermining my marriage, and the cost and aggravation and frustration of losing my children and the economics and the stresses make me not want to go further. So he had in his mind more negatives than positives on the action steps required to grow his business.
I see. Imbalance.
Raise your hand if you're understanding what I'm saying here. So he had an association from observation and perceptions of three friends and from his wife's response, according to the strategies and action steps he was taking, he was assuming that was the case. So I asked him a simple question. First, I told him that every decision you make is based on what you believe will give you the greatest advantage over disadvantage, greatest reward over risk at any moment in time. So if you believe that there's going to be more disadvantage than advantage on doing something you say you want to do, you won't do it. Because in your subconscious mind, you associate pain with the doing of it. Even though it seems logical to take action on it, there's an unconscious motive not to. Because you're afraid that if that would happen, I could run the risk of divorce. And if I ran the risk of divorce, everything I built would be disassembled. My kids would not interact with me. I'd lose my wife. It'd be humiliating to society. So he had way more negatives associated with this idea of growing his business than he even realized. Because that's what's stopping him. Unconscious motives. And those people are unconscious of what's stopping him and making him hit that ceiling. So I asked him, as long as you perceive more drawbacks and benefits, you won't take that action with the strategy that you have right now. Unless we change a strategy that's got new associations, or unless we change the associations with the current strategy, you're going to stay where you are. And he goes, wow, that's exactly what Matesh said. He just went, wow. I said, now, I'm going to ask you a really simple question, and we have to answer this to change your associations in your brain. How could growing and doubling your business help your wife fulfill what's most important to her? And I asked, what does her life demonstrate that's most important to her? What's highest on her values? Because that's what her identity revolves around. And he said, well, without a doubt, the children, and taking care of the home, and her extended family. She's very close to her mom and dad and her siblings, and she's also very social. I said, so her children, the home, family, and society, these are the things that are highest on her value. Is that what her life is demonstrating? Is this what's really how she fills her space and spends her time? Is this what she does? Yes. Great. How specifically, as you doubling your business, if all of a sudden you doubled it, how would it help her in those areas? How is it going to help her with the kids? And he said, it's not. I said, well, how is it going to help her with the kids? He says, I can't see it. If he can't see it and he doesn't know how it's going to help him, he's not going to take action past a certain level of the ceiling because he's afraid of what would happen. Because he doesn't see how it's going to help her. And he sees her getting angry in his mind. And he sees that it's going to undermine his marriage. I mean, understand what I'm saying here? It's very powerful. So I said, all right, so how could it help him? Help your wife with the children? Well, if I was to double my business and I was to generate more income, we could make sure that they get the higher quality schooling. Okay, let's write that down. Is that something important to your wife? Yes. What else? They would end up having nicer healthcare services. Great. Is that important to your wife? Yes. So if you were to say, I'd like to grow my business, that way my children will have greater healthcare and we'll be able to afford the best healthcare and make sure that they have the best education. She's going to believe in that and she's going to love that because she thinks you're caring about what's important to her. So what else would be another benefit? Probably might get clout server. I said, so what's another benefit? well, I'm having to work really hard to pay for the house. We got a big house because we got the kids, and I'm having to pay for that. And I'd like to pay that off. If I was to double my business, I'd be able to pay that off so she would feel secure. So I'm making him think of how him building a business is going to actually be something that meets her needs. And we're going to word it in such a way where we're writing these down in a way that meets her needs. She's going to feel secure. The house will be taken care of. If something ever happened to him and he got killed or died or health issues or even if something happened to him, she's secure. The family's secure. That's important to her. So he wrote that down. And we sat down and we started writing benefits on more vacation time. And then we more time together with the kids. And I said, well, if you were to go and increase your business, could you hire a specialist to delegate some of the actions? And then I went off on a tangent. And I said, let's take a look at what you're doing in a day. And which of those things are the ones that produce the most, and which of the things that produce the least that could be delegated. And we found a whole bunch of things he was doing that he was filling his day with that weren't the most productive things, that if he was to put more energy into the highest producing things, he could make more income to pay for somebody to do the other things. He would have less time distracted by all those other things and more time for the kids. So we came up with some new strategies and new delegations and what was to be delegated and what he was to concentrate on to produce more income. And then we worded it in a way that how it would help her with the kids and with her social and her family. And how it could help her spend more time with the family and spend more time with the kids and get more education and have the house taken care of and be able to buy nicer things. And he earmarked the percentage of what he earned extra into all the things that would help her, in addition to saving for security, in addition to travel, in addition to all the things that she wanted, in addition to having parties at the house, so she could socialize and bring people there. So everything that we wrote down that about building his business was now associated with how she's going to win. And we stacked up 50 of those benefits. We came up with strategy until the benefits outweighed just a little bit the drawbacks in his mind.
Wow.
And how it would prevent the divorce and how it would prevent the breaking up of the family. We looked at all the benefits until his mind saw a pathway, neurologically, neuropathically, the pathway where he saw that if I grow my business, I stabilize my marriage, she's more fulfilled, my kids get a better education, my kids get more time, I get to delegate more, I get to do what I love more, and I get more overall empowerment socially, and I have more time for my interactions with people. When we got through, which is about an hour and 15 minutes, I would guess, he was brought to tears of gratitude. Because instead of having an imbalanced ratio of perception, which was more negatives than positives associated with going after his goals, he saw both sides. He saw the downside, he saw the upsides. And this is called strategic planning. Strategic planning allows you to see how to take the things you think are downside in opportunities, so it's on the way, not in the way. So we turned growing his business into on the way, not in the way, to stabilize his marriage. Now, the moment he got through and he saw light at the end of the tunnel, and he got the executive center on, and he got creative inspiration to it, his energy went up, his certainty about how he was going to grow his business went up. He wasn't anxious about what he was doing. He didn't have any questions about how am I going to grow my business. He saw how he was going to grow his business. Wow. He knew what to delegate. He knew who to hire and who to reestablish and reallocate job duties to. And he went home that night and he shared the whole thing with his wife and shared it in her values. So there was respectful communication and dialogue. And all of a sudden, his wife is inspired by this. She's not resistant because she's winning. Because if you help other people get what they want to get in life, you get to have what you want in life. That's how it works. So all of a sudden, he went to work. Now, in 3 months, he was moving the compass, right? In 6 months, he got his business where he wanted to go. And now he's starting to ask the next question. Now he's got in his mind, So what else is in my way? What's my next biggest fear? And so he went through that, and he then knew how to balance that equation out. So he liberated himself, and every time he made more income, he allocated it proportionate to things for his wife, for the kids. He reallocated and structured his economics so it didn't go right back into business. It also went to things so she could see the results of him working harder and working smarter. And the time he was now able to be at home because he had delegated more in his office. If we don't delegate, we're trapped. We must prioritize what we do, dedicate to what's highest, and delegate what's lowest. But he had an imbalanced racial perception that was causing him fear, because fear is an assumption that you're about to experience through your senses or imagination more negatives than positives, more pains and pleasures, more losses and gains, more disadvantages and advantages. That's all it is.
Wow.
But once he saw that there was a balance, he was not manic, he was not elated with a fantasy, he was grounded, he was strategic, he followed it, he delegated, and it took him a few months, but in 6 months his business was up, expanded, and his wife was not anxious and bitching at him because he was not home.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that, Doctor. How many of you love that? Type in loved it in the chat window if you love that. One more question, Dr. Dimatni. A lot of people in our community, when they talk about attracting something in their life, there are two emotions that most of them battle with. Based on the questions that I get a lot. One is the emotion of depression in relationships, either because they've broken up with someone and they're so imbalanced that they're feeling fully depressed and they're not able to balance themselves. And the second emotion is desperation in making money or desperation in achieving their goals or business. So it's depression and desperation. Maybe if you could address this one at a time with a beautiful example of someone who got out of depression by balanced perspective and how.
Yeah. Depression is a comparison of your current reality to a fantasy.
One more time.
So I hope everybody writes that. Depression is a comparison of your current reality, which is balanced, to a fantasy, which is imbalanced.
Okay.
So when somebody's depressed, and I've worked with thousands of people with it, so it's something I get to do every week. People say I'm depressed. I said, okay, depressed about what? Well, depressed that my business isn't where it wants to be, or I'm depressed because my girlfriend left me, or something like that. I said, well then, let me ask you this. Your girlfriend left you because she was not fulfilling her values being with you.
Yeah.
Somehow there was something you were doing that wasn't fulfilling her values. And she's not wrong for wanting to find something that fulfills her values. Everybody's going through life trying to fulfill their values. And when they don't see something that's quite fulfilling, they move on to something that they think is more fulfilling. So somehow the question is you had a fantasy about what this relationship is. You were probably the underdog, minimizing yourself and infatuated with her. When you're the underdog, she doesn't have a mate. She doesn't have a match. She's superior, you're inferior. And you're desperately wanting to hold on to her. And you have a fantasy about how she's going to be. And her job, I hope everybody writes this, her job is to break your fantasy so you can learn to love. Because fantasies are not love. They're fantasies. Let me give you a funny story here, and this will make sense here. And then you're going to probably think this is weird, but that's okay. I'm a weird guy.
Okay.
But my wife, I was in Australia, and I got a text from my wife before she died. This is about 22 years ago, 21 years ago. And we got a text, and she says, I still got it. And I said, you still got what? And she says, I just went into a shoe store in Portofino, Italy. And I came off the ship and went into this cobble street and went into this shoe store, this little boutique. And the most handsome man I've ever seen in my entire life came in the store. He was absolutely stunning guy. And he comes in and he spotted me and he comes up to me and he says, oh my God, you're the most beautiful woman I've ever seen. Please tell me you're not married. I must know who you are. I must take you to lunch or dinner. Please let me know who you are. I want to be with you. Now, the guy could be just blowing smoke. He could just be saying some good lines. But to a woman who's a bit gullible there, I think they always like to be considered beautiful.
Absolutely.
So in the process of doing it, my wife said, this guy she said, I still got it. I said, what do you still got? She says, the guy said I was the most beautiful woman in the world. I typed back, well, you are the most beautiful woman in the world to me. You're stunning, you're gorgeous. So he's got good taste. I said, did you get his contact details? She said, no, I was flustered by it, and I felt a little bit shocked by it. I said, you got to get contact details. I could die tomorrow in a plane crash. I could have a stroke or a heart attack. You got to have a backup plan. And I'm telling her to do that. And she says, why do you say that? I said, because if you don't rule him out, you're going to compare me to a fantasy about who he is. And I cannot ever compete with a fantasy. I can compete with another man, but I can't compete with a fantasy you fabricate in your mind and your imagination. So I said, go find this guy. He came in on the Sultan of Brunei ship next to our ship. I said, find the guy and see if you can find him. Rule him out. Meet with the guy. If he's a better package than me, then I'll be your best man. And maybe you go and be with a greater opportunity. If he's not, then I'd rather you rule it out because you're going to appreciate me more.
Yeah.
So because then you're going to think the most handsome guy's a schmuck, and then I'm going to look good. So I said, I can't lose on the deal. So she tried to find the guy, couldn't find the guy. So I had to crack her fantasy. And we had to go and investigate who this person was. And we had to go and knock down the fantasy, because if she has a fantasy and she compares her husband to a fantasy, the husband can't win. If a guy has a fantasy about this girl and the wife doesn't match the fantasy, he's going to punish the wife, because he's going to put false expectations and fantasies on people, and going to be depressed when they don't match it. Most people in the relationships are addicted to fantasies, and they're basically having an affair with a fantasy person, a fantasy individual, not the real person. Because they keep trying to fix and change the person into their fantasy. And as a result of that, they're going to be depressed. So anytime you're in a relationship and you put somebody on a pedestal and you think, oh my God, this is the one, and you're the underdog, they're not with a match. And they go, why would I stay with somebody who's less than me? They want somebody who's a match, that banters with them. See, when you're infatuated with somebody and you're playing the underdog, you're afraid to say negative things to someone. When you're the overdog, you're afraid to mislead them with positive things. When you've got a match, you can say positive and negative things in balance again. You're back in balance. And you can then communicate your appreciation in a balance. So he was the underdog. As a result of it, he had her on a pedestal. She wanted to keep her options open because she didn't feel she got a match. She finally found or thought she could find a better package, and so she left. He's depressed because he had a fantasy of who she was going to be instead of who she actually is. And the question you want to ask is, why would you want to be with somebody that doesn't want to be with you? Why would you want to hold on to somebody that's not mutually wanting you? That seems kind of crazy. You're going to pay a price playing the underdog and be desperate.
Correct.
When you're desperate, you're not going to get your empowerment. You're not going to have fulfillment and love. So if you have a fantasy about who they are and you try to get them to match the fantasy, you're going to punish them until they become the fantasy. And that's like projecting your values onto them, and you're going to get futility. And you're going to get anger and aggression. You're going to blame them and feel betrayed. You're going to criticize and challenge them. You're going to feel despaired and depressed. You're going to want to constantly exit and escape the thing, but you don't want to because you're still playing the fantasy. And you're being caught back and forth with an instability and a lot of volatility. But if you have a balanced relationship where you can both say positive and negative things equally and keep them in check and keep them authentic, they respect you. Praise plus reprimand builds respect. But praise is a sign of the inferiority. And challenge and criticism is a sign of the opposite side, superiority. When you put those to balance, you have a nice relationship. So if this person's depressed, it's because they're comparing their current reality, which is what's balanced, to some fantasy that they're holding on to about how life is supposed to be. Now, it may not be a relationship, it may be business. I have people that when I look at the hierarchy of their values, business is number 5. And then they keep fantasizing about, oh, I want to be a big business person with a lot of money. Anytime you set a goal that's not congruent and aligned with what you truly highest in your values, your top 3 values, you're going to self-depreciate. You're going to end up being depressed because you're expecting yourself to live outside your own values. And you're designed to. You are designed to feel depressed when you're trying to live outside your own true authentic values, because your body is going to create symptoms psychologically and physiologically to get you back to authenticity, which is your highest value. So anytime you try to be somebody you're not, you're going to get feedback in the form of depression, self-depreciation, internal anger, and you're going to end up being depressed.
Wow.
So these are feedback mechanisms. Depression is not your enemy. Depression is a feedback mechanism to guide you to set realistic expectations on yourself and other people to live in their highest values, or you're in your highest values. When you do, you don't end up depressed because you're more objective, you're more balanced, and you're not emotional, and you're not in the fantasy world of the amygdala that I mentioned a moment ago. The amygdala wants a pleasure without a pain. It wants a fantasy. It's a survival mentality. And people that are not engaged doing their highest priorities are more vulnerable to ending up with fantasies and being depressed. But depression is not your enemy. Depression is your friend. It's giving you feedback to let you know you're setting unrealistic expectations on self or other people.
Wow, that's mind-blowing. Type in MB mind-blowing if that is mind-blowing for some of you. Here I'd like to share a small example with you, Doctor. Something that you did with me in the breakthrough experience that we were attending with you last year. And you spoke about balanced perspective, I remember, the second day again. And Indu was going through at that time a situation where she had just lost her brother at that time, Deepak. And she was obviously completely imbalanced at that time, correctly so because of the situation. She was really missing her brother. She was in tears and she didn't know how to live life without him at that point of time. And she felt like a piece of her had gone and something was missing and she was just not able to grasp that feeling properly. And I remember you did the balanced perspective exercise with her in a way that eventually it came to a beautiful conclusion that nothing is missing in life. And she suddenly felt that holistic experience. And it's not like she never felt that imbalance again. She did. But now at least she knew how to come back to balance. If you could explain that to us one more time about, because a lot of people here are feeling like they're missing something, either a person from the past or a business or an opportunity that's gone out of their hands. And because of that frequency of that imbalance, they're just not able to attract and be inspired as persistence to thinking. How do they use balance thinking for that?
All right. So I'll do two on that. First of all, I hope everybody writes this down, and this is not something you want to hear, but you need to be grounded if you want to grow. And that is, if you don't have a demand, what you're supplying doesn't match their needs.
Fair.
So let that sink in. If you don't have a demand for your services, where people want to pay you and buy you what you have, you're not meeting their needs in their perception.
That's true.
Because when there's a demand, there's a rush to get that demand. Because people want your service. So you don't, if we're self-righteously think we know what people need, instead of finding out what people want and need, then we don't meet their need. And this is where the narcissistic persona makes you project your values onto other people and expect them to live in your values. And eventually they show you, and they humble you because they don't want it. They want what they want. They want what's important to them.
Correct.
And if you don't meet what's important to them, they don't want to be with you. They don't want to buy your services. So the first thing you want to do is to get feedback from your customers and find out what is got a demand. Because that's, if you don't meet that demand and meet that need, there's no business.
That's true.
I sometimes launch a seminar, and sometimes the seminar goes bonkers. And sometimes I launch a seminar and it doesn't do that well. The ones that did well, I articulated, presented, and packaged something that met their needs. The ones that didn't, I packaged and presented and advertised something that didn't meet their needs. So I have feedback by their demand. I have feedback whether I'm meeting their needs. If I'm not getting their needs met, there's no demand.
Right.
And therefore there's no income. So when people are not making an income, it means they're not meeting a need. Because income comes from the customer that is getting their needs met.
Yes.
Now that's common sense, but we sometimes ignore it. We know that intellectually, but we're still expecting them to buy what we think is important for them instead of what they think is important for them. Now, if you can articulate what you think is important to them in terms of what they think is important to them, they'll buy it. But you have to present it in a way that meets their needs. So if you're not making income and now you're depressed because you expect people to live in your values, not their own, you're going to be depressed. Because you have an imbalanced ratio of superiority of your values over their values. And that's where it's imbalanced. So until that's balanced and meeting their needs and your needs where it's fair exchange, you're going to create symptoms in your business to let you know that. Now, when it comes to a loss, let's say you lost a loved one, or you lost a client that was a big client, or lost an income, or lost money in the stock market, or whatever. The only time you fear loss or feel the loss of something and feel grief is when you feel you lost something you were infatuated with. So let's say, I'll use an example in America. When Donald Trump had his military kick ago, the people in America celebrated him as being killed because he was leading terrorists in America. But in Iran, they saw him as a hero, and 5 million people came out and mourned his death. So they had him as a hero, America had him as a villain. Now the truth is, I'm sure to his family, he was a great father, he was a lovely man. But some people made him a hero, some people made him a villain. The people that made him a hero mourned his grieving his loss. The people that saw him as a villain celebrated his loss. So the ratio of your perceptions of making people heroes or villains or infatuated or resenting will determine whether or not, if they're gone, whether you're going to be grieving the loss. So if you're feeling empty and lost, it's because you were infatuated with what it was that you think you lost. If I go in there and I bring balance and find the drawbacks to what you thought you lost and bring it back into balance, and I don't need to go too far, or otherwise you'll be satisfied, you'll be grateful that things gone. But if I bring it into balance, the grief goes away, and the loss goes away. My job is to bring it into balance. So that's what we did with Hindu. We basically brought her the perception of her brother that she was infatuated with parts, and we brought the downside to his infatuated parts, and the benefit to the new people that came into her life, and brought that more into balance, which allowed her to adapt. Because when you're balanced, you have the most resilience, most adaptability, you have the most productivity. When you're imbalanced, you have the most distraction, emotion, volatility, infatuations with fantasies, and fears of nightmares. So you get distracted by all those emotions. That's why Warren Buffett says, until you can manage emotions, don't expect to manage money. And why Robert Greene says, until you can manage emotions, don't expect to be a leader and manage people.
Wow, that was amazing. How many of you learned a lot from that? And for how many of you that could relate exactly with what you're going through in your life right now? Maybe type an I in the chat window if you could relate to that. Doctor, you said something to Indu that time that made so much sense to us, that nothing is missing and everything is love. Could you elaborate that with balanced perspective? Because for a lot of us, love is not what we think it is. It's just, as you said, a comparison of reality to fantasy. So if you could elaborate on that love aspect as well, of nothing is missing.
Yes. When we're teenagers, we have a lot of fantasies. We call them crushes. And crushes are fantasies designed to be crushed.
Okay.
So they're designed to be crushed. That's why they're called a crush. You're about to be crushed. Your fantasy is about to be broken. So when you're living in your amygdala and you're living in lower values and you're in your emotional survival, feel before you think state, you think that love is an infatuation because it gives you dopamine, it gives you entephalons and endorphins, and it makes oxytocin go up and vasopressin, and you get serotonin, and you get all this high, and you get this estrogen, you want to nurture them and take care of them, and you start fantasizing, I found my soulmate, I want to have babies, I want a little picket fence and house. You start fantasizing. And then you get with the person, and over the next weeks and months, you slowly but surely find out some of the downsides. You find out that the girl that you're dating is actually Jack, she's transgender. you find out that I'm joking, that was a joke.
That's extreme.
You find out that her father is demanding and he's a colonel in the army. You find out that when every time she goes out, the mother has to go with you. You find out that she's dated 300 guys. You find things out you didn't see that you were blinded to initially while you're infatuated. Infatuation is blind, and it's confused with love. And most people don't know that, and they have to gradually mature and go through enough broken relationships and crushes and fantasies, and slowly but surely discover that every relationship you'll be in has things you like and dislike, things that are positive and negative, things that you look up to and down on. And that's what love is. Love is a perfect balance of opposites. It's a synthesis and synchronicity of complementary opposites. So you're going to have things, if you make a list of everything you're looking for in a mate and write it down, most people write only the positives. And they go, I want a mate that's handsome, that's good looking, that makes money, and this and that, and all that stuff. And that's all positives. There are no such things. They don't make those. They stopped making the mold, before the earth was formed. So what you get is a guy that's intelligent, but he's going to argue. He's going to think he knows everything. You get a guy that's basically really handsome, but he farts. And he looks in the mirror, and when he's making love with you, he doesn't look at you, he looks in the mirror at himself. You get a guy that's basically, really, really determined and fit and exercise, but he's out exercising all the time, and he's eating too much food, and his poop smells so terrible, it stinks up the house. You find out that there's something about that person that comes with it. You get a positive, like a magnet. Whenever you're looking for a loving relationship, know that every trait you have comes with a magnet of the opposite side. So if you make a list of everything you're looking for, intelligent, you got to also know he's going to be called an idiot. You're going to think he's an idiot because he's not going to understand your values sometimes.
Right.
When he's very driven, he's going to be working hours. You're not going to see him sometimes. If he's very social, he's going to be hanging out with friends and you're going to be cooking for everybody. If he's really funny, he's going to be a flake and you're not going to respect him over time because it's the same friggin' jokes. You're going to find out the things that you liked initially become the things you also want to choke him over. When you finally can embrace both sides of somebody, you get to love them. Love is a synthesis and synchronicity of opposites. It is a balanced state. That's why when you're living by your highest priorities and highest values, you have the highest probability of being able to realistically expect a balance, not emotionally react when it's balanced, and not live in a fantasy with the amygdala that I want a pleasure without a pain. I want a nice without a mean. There are relationships out there. I can give you stories and stories. I had a woman in Colorado that she was really, really slow in learning, quite dense. And she kept expecting, and she'd been through 13 relationships in about 4 years, and kept looking for this fantasy man, thinking she's got it, gets really infatuated. The guy starts having behaviors that she doesn't want. She keeps looking for this thing, and she kept thinking, I'm going to get this man that's one-sided. She came to the breakthrough experience. She was really tough. I wanted to choke her sometimes. I wanted to lasso her and tie her down, wake her up, because she was completely delusional. And she says, well, I'm into positive thinking, and I don't want to have any negative thoughts, and I don't want any negative thoughts from a man. I don't want any, I want him to support me and be kind to me and be nice to me and this. And I said, these are all fantasies and delusions. You will never find a man like this.
Wow.
And so she looked at all the relationships, and we identified every single one of the relationships she had been in, all 13 of them, and looked at what destroyed it, and looked at her fantasy and how it was helping her crack her fantasies, and they were actually doing their job, but she was slow in learning and maturing. So as long as she has a fantasy of a one-sided man, she's going to think she's got it, she's going to be blinded by infatuation, she's going to end up not matching it, she's going to be resentful. When she's in the fantasy phase, she's going to want to hurry up and get married, she's going to do whatever she can to get the guy, and then she's going to find out he's not what she thought. And this is exactly the fatal attraction that Michael Douglas had in the movie with Glenn Close. They're delusionally infatuated with each other, high dopamine, and most people confuse love with dopamine rushes. And that's not what love is. love is a perfect balanced orientation where you're poised and present and purposeful and prioritized and productive, and you have meaning and you have respect, and you can say positive and negative things equally to them, and they are there to respond and give you positive and negative things back to help you maintain authenticity. If you're cocky, they'll bring you down. If you're humble, they'll lift you up. That's a healthy relationship. If you're expecting positive without negative and nice without mean and kind without cruel, you're still in your teenage thinking, and you're not going to mature enough to be ready for a real relationship, because there is no such thing as a one-sided man. They don't make them, or one-sided women. And depression will occur when you have a fantasy that you're going to get one like that. And you're going to keep having broken hearts. And then you're going to think, well, nobody loves me. But the real truth is you're being loved 24 hours a day, but you keep having an addiction to a one-sided love, and so you miss out on what you think is missing is not missing. It's there, but you can't see it because you're addicted to a fantasy.
Wow, that explains a lot. So a lot of people here who would be going through attraction of breakups in their relationships, conflicts in their relationships, lost opportunities again and again, trying to change careers again and again, are somewhere in that imbalanced perspective because they're constantly looking for the fantasy compared to the reality, which doesn't exist. So they get into that fantasy, and their fantasy gets crushed again, and then they go to the next person or the next opportunity or the next person or the next business opportunity. So now we understand why this happens, doctor. But now I know this is something that you cover more in detail with the breakthrough experience, and we'll probably bring that program back to everybody soon. Is there an exercise that we can do tonight, maybe a small one, because I know this is a huge exercise of its own, something that they can do tonight that can help them to understand, okay, I am imbalanced, the exercise shows it, but how do I know maybe balance it so that I stop attracting these fantasies and keep creating these missed opportunities again and again, either in relationships or in career or money?
Okay. Everybody right now on a piece of paper, write down something they feel let down by, depressed by, or feel that they're not fulfilling and they're feeling let down, that they're letting themselves down.
It could be in any area of life, health, relationship, career, money.
Any area of life. Just something you feel let down on, or something you feel somebody else let you down on. Either you let yourself down on, or somebody else let you down on. And write that down. And just pick one. Just pick one.
Okay, got it.
One that stands out. And now your homework assignment tonight is to write down exactly what they did or you did that you thought, if you thought you did something that let you down, or you thought they did something that let you down, pick who it is, you or them. And if it's them, I want you to write down, if they had done what you hoped and fantasized, what would have been the drawback?
Oh.
And if they did what they did, what's the benefit that you're overlooking? Because right now you have an imbalanced racial perception. You have a fantasy that would be, if they were doing this, your life would be happier, and you see more positives and negatives in the fantasy, and the reality has got more negatives than positives. So if you don't crack the fantasy that you're comparing it to, it can never win. You can never get out of resentment if you keep comparing people to a fantasy about who they're supposed to be. You'll stay resentful because they're not matching your fantasy and your expectations. Anytime life doesn't match expectations, you have sorrow, and you end up with cortisol, and you get angry and all the ABCDs of negativity. Anytime they exceed expectation, you get joy. But when you exceed expectation, you're blind to the downside. When they don't meet expectation, you're blind to the upside. That's why those emotions, joy and sorrow, are both illusions. That's why fulfillment includes the pair of opposites, a balanced orientation. So go and write down, if they were to do what I hope they would have done, the way I wish they would have done, the way I envisioned them to do or be, what would be the drawbacks? And write 20 drawbacks to you, drawbacks to you, of them being that way. And then write down, after you do that, then write down 20 benefits of them being exactly the way they are. Because anytime you compare your reality, your current reality, to a fantasy about how it should have been different, you're not honoring the magnificence of what's happening right there. The magnificence is right in front of you, but you can't see it. You think, I need to get things to change to get there. It's right now. The magnificence is right there on the spot, but you can't see it because you're comparing it to a fantasy that you're locking onto. And the addiction to that fantasy will make you resent what's happening in reality.
Wow. So two parts of the
Right now,
exercise.
the drawbacks to you of them being the way you hoped,
Yes.
the way you wished, 20 drawbacks. And then write 20 benefits of what happened in that moment. Now, if you want that to change, there will be a change either in your values, a change in your expectations, or you need to communicate what value and change you want in terms of their values so they can do it because they're going to win. Because that guy, when he started communicating the wife's values, he got to win, she got to win. And that's the only thing that creates sustainable dynamics, and it doesn't lead to depression.
Wow. Amazing. We'll definitely do this exercise tonight. One last question, because I know our time is almost up. Doctor, you spoke last time something that stuck with all of us, that a balanced mind creates wellness and an imbalanced mind creates illness. There are a lot of people here who are physically somewhere grappling with certain physical symptoms. Their physiology is giving them feedback, going through certain emotional or physical issues. How is it possible to probably balance that and maybe heal our body? And maybe if you could share a story, kind of a miraculous story of someone who did balance, maybe through Breakthrough Experience Workshop, and eventually a health problem which was sustaining for a long period of time because of that imbalance, the moment they balanced it, it either disappeared or healed it from within. If you could share an example like this with that exercise.
Yeah. There was a gentleman named Larry. He was a doctor. I've known him for 37 years. Since he was a child, he's had psoriasis. Predominantly over the elbows, knees, scalp. I would say probably half of his body was covered in psoriasis, which is a scaly, oily, inflamed inflammation all over the skin.
Yeah.
And sometimes it oozes, and sometimes it gets pus, and sometimes it's not fun. And it's painful at times. And it sometimes lasts for days, and sometimes even longer, weeks. And it's moving around, so it flares up here, and then it calms down, it flares up there, and it's going around. Now, he's had that most of his life. Because when I asked him at the Breakthrough Experience in Dallas, Texas, how long have you been aware you've had psoriasis? He said, since I was a child, I've had psoriasis. Okay. Now, sometimes some conditions disappear, but not without reason. They don't just spontaneously disappear without reason. So I said, this is an inflammation, an inflamed response in your skin. Something that obviously the skin represents showing yourself and revealing yourself. And I said, so there's an inflammation at revealing yourself. And then
Doctor, we lost you there. Everybody else still connected with me? Just say yes in the chat. Yes, in the website, right? Okay. Yeah, Doctor, you're
and
back.
then I said,
We lost you for the last 20 seconds there.
okay. Okay. Can you hear me now?
Now we can hear you. We lost you when you said he had inflammation and you asked him about something revealing about himself.
Yeah. I asked him, who are you feeling you can't be yourself in front of? Who are you afraid to be your authentic self in front of? Who are you not living up to's expectations? Who are you subordinating to that has high expectations, and no matter what you do, you can't live up to it? And he said, without a doubt, my father, no matter what I do, it's not good enough.
Okay.
And you could see his face in the way he spoke, the frustration and the chronic frustration of never being able to please his dad. He was a Jewish man. His father had really high moral hypocrisy expectations that were completely unreal. And no matter what he did, he was never good enough to his dad. So he's beating himself up and attacking himself. and basically having an inflammatory response to himself for not being able to face his. We spend a lot of hours on it, all of Saturday afternoon and part of Sunday. Finally, Sunday afternoon, he finishes the exercise, the DeMartini method in the break exercise, where he balances out his resentments. He takes everything his father did, finds out where he's done it, finds out the benefit of what his father did, find out the drawback if his father was the way he fantasized, crack the fantasy, find out who's doing the opposite. His mother was the overprotector one, and no matter what it was, he was like the angel to her, and she saw only his positives. The father saw only his negatives. Put a balance, so he got a balance of love, but he didn't see it. He wanted both of them to put him on a pedestal, instead of his mother making him a hero and the father making him a villain. Once he saw it break, he came to breakthrough, and he saw the balance, and he balanced it out and saw where he's done this, and he's done it to his own son. And he saw his son's asthma. He could see how his son's asthma was afraid to breathe, afraid he was going to walk on eggshells to his own father. He just realized, he just broke down in tears. And he got so he cried so much that he started snotting from his nose, started dripping from his eyes, and drooling from his mouth, and fell on the floor and curled up in a fetal position. And cried and cried and cried, and finally realized that his father was balancing out his mother, was making sure that he became driven as an entrepreneur, high achieving. He ended up doing well in sports. He did academics. He did everything to try to please his father. But he kept having this expectation. He never saw the benefits of his father's expectations. And he never saw that his mother was balancing it. And if his mother had raised him without his father, he would never have been driven, because he was always, the perfect thing, and there was no drive. If you over support and protect children, they don't have drive. You need the challenger. You need the guy that's criticizing and make you come up with creative and innovative ways in life. When he finally balanced that equation and had those tears and just sat there, I'm going to guess 20 or 30 minutes crying. A lady on the seminar went over to him and, just got next to him and just put her arms around him. And then people all over the seminar came out of their chairs and walked over there and just kind of surrounded him and said, look. And I said to him, no matter what you've done or not done, you're worthy of love. And I just had them repeat it to him, I repeated it to him, and he repeated it. When he got through, he just had to sit there. He couldn't talk. He had cried so much. The tension in his body was let loose. And the internal conflict of himself and the need to impress somebody, the need to prove something, all was gone. 3 days later, some of the scabs were coming off. 7 days later, the skin that had been with psoriasis was now pink. About 2 weeks later, there was no sign of psoriasis. And that was about 31 years ago. I've known the guy since, never had psoriasis again. So his body was revealing his internal conflict and his he had an imbalanced ratio of perceptions on his mom and dad. Didn't see that they were pairs of opposites balancing in the family. He didn't know the downside of his mother's support and the upside to his father's challenge and criticism. One said he lived beyond expectation, and the other one didn't live up to expectation. When I showed him those were perfectly balanced in column 13 of the DeMartini method, that's when he broke. That's when he realized. And I broke his fantasy about how his father should have done this. And I broke his nightmare about how he didn't take care of his mom. What's interesting, because he was infatuated with his mom, he was taking care of her when the father died. And he was angry at the father and didn't even care about the father up until that day. But once he saw that he loved his mom and his father in a balanced way, and his body let him know that, and his body let him heal. And so that's what the body does. It's trying to whisper to you, but we don't get trained. Very few people are trained on applied physiology and what physiology is actually saying. If you don't study the autonomic nervous system, you don't study how cells respond to the autonomics, you would never know what the body is trying to whisper to you. But it's trying to speak. And your body speaks out so loud, sometimes we have to listen.
So, Doctor, a lot of women right now going through cancer, breast cancer. What does that speak?
Well, sometimes they feel that they're, some women, it depends on the side of the breast, left side, right side, female, male. Sometimes they don't feel that they're living up to the expectations and they don't feel like they're nurturing themselves. Sometimes they don't feel like their spouse is nurturing them. Sometimes they didn't feel like they were nurtured as a child. So when it's a breast, I always look for nurture. I always look for somebody that, when you think of breastfeeding, you think of somebody that's feeding and nurturing somebody, providing for something. If they have a perception that they were not nurtured and they have an expectation of their husband, their right breast will probably go. If they have an expectation they didn't get nurtured by their mom or their dad, the left or right breast can affect. If they didn't feel like their kids, they have an expectation of kids and the kids aren't there for them, they can have it. So I got to go through and look down on the male and female sides of where the nurturing issues are, and then we one by one do the DiMartini method on that. Now that doesn't mean you don't do the typical treatment programs, that's available to them, because there are other things they'll do. And it doesn't mean you don't also eat wisely and other things. But this is a very common process. I'll share one story to help you. I had a lady that came to me. She had uterine cancer. It metastasized to the small intestine and the liver, and a tiny bit to the lung. Now, they said that, the way it's going, they didn't know for sure. They're going to have to do experimental drugs. So she went for another opinion. And that one, they said, no, we'll be able to help her. So they started to help this lady. During the time they were getting chemotherapy, I worked with her for hours and hours and hours and hours and clearing every one of the issues she had in her life. Wow. So she was married to a guy that she had not made love to, get this now, in 21 years. She's married to a man that she has not made love to in 21 years. And what she did is she was very religious and believed that having kids and sex only for kids. So sex out of kids was no. So the man, because of that, she married her disowned part. So she married a man that had a high libido. So he says, if you're not going to have sex with me, I don't know what to do. I either got to masturbate or have porn or go to prostitute or go have another woman, or I don't know what I'm going to do. I have to put all my sexual energy into my business. So he chose and had an affair. And it was discreet, but the wife found out about it. And so from that day on, she never had sex with him again. Now, no sex, so if you don't use it, you lose it. Why would you need a uterus if you're not going to have sex and not have any kids?
Whoa.
Interesting thing. So that throws off the estrogen because she was bitter and resentful, which makes testosterone override estrogen. So the estrogen levels are affected, the testosterone is up, there's anger and bitterness, don't touch me, don't get around me. But they stayed married because of their religious belief. So she basically said, I'm not going to do it because if I divorce him, I'm going to go to hell. This was a Christian delusion. And in the process of doing it, I'm going to stay here and I'm going to martyr my life. And people that martyr their life and have unconscious bitterness and live in a fantasy in the afterlife, this is a very common denominator.
So when you work with her,
I worked with her and cleared all the resentments. And she had a 99% recovery on this thing. But during that time, her husband thought that she was going to die. He didn't think she was going to make it. And he had an aneurysm and couldn't work. And they didn't have enough money. So he had no choice but to try to find somebody else. And he wanted to find a woman that had wealth. So he started an affair with a woman that had money, so he would not be left without work and any money. So he had no choice but to go and try to find plan B. When the wife found out about it, she died in 11 days. She was 99% healed until she found out that he was having an affair while she was undergoing chemotherapy.
wow. So second time she couldn't handle that, got into imbalance again.
Yeah, she gave up.
Wow, this is crazy. I think we're going to look forward to having you one more time for the entire breakthrough experience to go more in depth with this, because I know that's where the whole DeMartini method really goes into practice, and the whole 2 days of actually showering through that experience. Thank you so much, Doctor. This has been more than enlightening. The kind of love and wisdom you always shower us with is absolutely crazy. I know we will have to watch this video again and again. I'm going to work with all of these guys to do one more recap on this session one more time to really break down everything we heard about today. Anything last, one thing that you'd like to say to all of us, because we know today's second session is the last session on values and balance perspective, so that they leave with love and balance and not just infatuation of law of attraction.
Well, first of all, thank you for being here and taking time out of your busy lives late at night, because it's 10:30, 10, 11 o'clock almost.
Yeah.
And thank you for supporting Meditation in their mission, and let me just thank you for helping me in my mission of helping people. And may we consistently all grow together. You know, that's what it's all about. We're all going to grow and learn to love each other and love ourselves and fulfill our mission of service in the world. So just thank you for letting me be part of that today. And hopefully what I shared was insightful and helpful. And I look forward to our next gathering in some fashion.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Doctor. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. And before you go, once again, everyone, please unmute. Give him that thank you. Give him that I love you. I know today's session is more than you can have imagined. So please shower your love and gratitude.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Really grateful. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Doctor, personally, because not only you saved my marriage, but you've kept me beautifully happy in our relationship between me and Indu. So thank you so much again, Doctor.
I think his camera again crashed.
Oh, I think he's probably logged out. Whoa! All right, all of you on mute, give me one word. How was that today? All right. So for how many of you, half the things requires to watch this video again? Like at least half the things. Like you'll have to listen to it at slow speed. Do you know that in my videos in Kajabi, when you come to the course section, you can increase the speed. With Dr. DeMartini, you'll have to decrease the speed. But it was a mind-blowing experience. It was a little easy for me because I've gone through the certification with him. I've gone through the license program with him, and I've been working with him for now, I don't know, I think about 15 years now. I've been blessed to know him and to learn from him. And I really meant it when I said that not only did he save my marriage, he made our marriage full of love and happiness today. Not in the way of love of infatuation, but true love of balanced of where we, I and Indu, are able to see each other's strengths and weaknesses, positives and negatives, and be able to accept that both. So the exercise that he gave, I'll just do a quick recap and then we'll take sharing from all of you as usual. But all of you remain here because I'm going to do a little bit of recap. Before I do the recap, here is a beautiful offer for some of you who are not in platinum right now. How many people are not part of platinum yet? Raise your hands if you're not part of platinum. Okay. In the next few weeks, I'm planning to reconduct the entire breakthrough experience workshop again. If you remember in the lesson 1 and in the lesson 2 today, Dr. DeMartini kept talking about the values exercise and the multiple applications of that in the lesson 1. And today he spoke about balanced perspective and using the DeMartini method. He's created a method called the DeMartini method, which has about 13 different questions. It's a huge exercise, which gives you the ability to balance yourself and create that wellness in your subconscious mind, in your physiology, in your psychology, and create that kind of balance in your health, relationships, career, and money, so that you're truly able to attract what you want in your life. That breakthrough experience I'm going to personally conduct in a few weeks for all platinum members. Now, all of you, before we continue doing that recap, quickly take your notepad and write this down. What is your highest values? You little bit you understand about values now. What is your highest value? What do you really value in your life? What would you really like to achieve in your life? Let's write that down quickly. What are your highest desires in your health, in your relationships, in your career, in your money? What are some of your highest desires? What are some of your highest values? What are some of your highest desires? What do you really, really want to attract in your life? So self-growth is a very subjective word. Give me precise goals in your life. You remember what Dr. DeMartini said in his first session? Values are not abstracts. They are things that you can measure with time, money, focus, and space. You can achieve them. So don't just write money. How much money? Don't be abstract about it. Be specific. What's your highest value? What is your true desire? What do you really want to attract? Why did you join Advanced Law of Attraction? You wanted to attract something, right? What do you want to attract? Now, don't just write success and recognition. What does success mean to you? How do you define success for yourself? Is it something in your health? Is it something in your relationships? Is it something in your career? Something in your financial life? And now, quickly write down in the notepad and then in the chat window, for how many years are you struggling with that desire or value? For how many years? Okay, hold on. I'm going to open up my chat window. Select everyone when you're answering that chat and respond again. Respond again. So I can see some people have written 15 years, 10 years, 3 years, 25 years. For how long are you struggling? That's the question. Answer that in the chat window. Okay. Now, that number of years that you're struggling with, you're struggling because two reasons. One, you do not know how to realign yourself with your actual values. Somewhere, if you're struggling in your desires, that means two things are happening here. One, your desires are not matching your actual values. How many of you have understood that a little bit based on lesson 1 from Dr. DeMartini? Raise your hands. Did you understand that? Somewhere your desires are not matching your values, that's why you're not attracting them. Point number 1. Point number 2. You've got a lot of imbalance in you. And because of that imbalance, you're living a life of fantasy, so you're either going through depression or desperation. How many of you can relate with this right now? Type in I in the chat window if you can relate with what I'm saying. You're going through a lot of imbalance in your life because you're comparing reality with fantasy, and because of that, you're either going through depression or desperation or both. Correct? Now, you can either keep working with this yourself and keep going through that, or the highest desire that you've really written down. How many of you really want to match those desires with your values? Raise your hands. How many of you really want to make sure that you balance yourself and not just learn to balance yourself, but continue to balance yourself? Raise your hands. Okay, that's where I'm inviting you today, because I want you to know that only one course is not enough to learn something like this and apply it in your life. How many of you agree what you learned with Dr. DeMartini? It just made you more hungry to learn this stuff. If you agree with me, type in hungry in the chat window if you agree. Like when I heard him for the first time on YouTube Live first time, I got even more hungry. Like I was not satisfied with what I learned in the last 2 lessons. So I kept learning from him again and again. So if you're hungry and if you really want to learn this stuff, just a course is not enough. You have to work this through. That's where I'm inviting you today to be part of Platinum, where I'm saying 10 years of success is possible in 1 year when your systems 2 thinking is activated, when you're working as per your values, when you have balanced perspective. And that cannot happen by only working on one area of life. You have to work holistically and balanced in how many areas of life? Everyone show me with your hands. I keep talking about how many areas? All 4 areas. Health, relationships, career, and money. And that is why Platinum is not about a course. It's about being mentored, being coached, and going through practices every single day of your life for the next 365 days. What you learn today, way of feeling today, this feeling will go away. But if you want to sustain the learning, you need to practice. Type in P for practice if you agree with me. The learning is giving you just a feeling right now. But if you don't practice it, it doesn't convert into a new frequency. So those of you who would like to continue practicing with me and with a large group of Platinum members with us every single day, here's my invitation. Join. What fees is. Most of you don't know the fees is. I'll tell you one simple answer in the chat window. It's 3.75 lakhs for lifetime, one-time investment, lifetime learning, where I become your mentor for the rest of your life. But remember, everything has advantages and what? Show me your hands. Disadvantages. So I don't want to give you a fantasy that Platinum is something that you're expecting it is all the time. No. What is Platinum not? There are 3 things you don't get in Platinum. Write down 3 things you don't get. 1, shoulder to cry. Platinum is not shoulder to cry. You want to have shoulder to cry, find a best friend. Platinum is about mentoring. Platinum is about coaching. How many people are willing to be coached? Raise your hands if you're willing to be coached. Yeah, so that's platinum is about that. It's not about coming, I listen to you nicely, you tell me all your life stories, and then I listen to your crying and I give you my shoulder to cry. No, we don't do that. 2, what else do we not do? Write down. No phone calls, no personal conversations, no emails, no WhatsApp messages between you and me. Now, why am I telling you all this? Because it has to be a fair exchange. I can't make you have a fantasy about what platinum is. So let me tell you the reality of what platinum is. The reality of platinum is you and me and 1,000 other platinum members working with each other in a group every single day for the next 365 days to achieve 10 years of success in 1 year by doing the work that you've not done for the last 10 years. How many of you agree you've been avoiding this work for the last 10 years of working on your values, working on your emotional perspective, working on maintaining that balance, and you're constantly getting feedback from your body and you're getting feedback from your life? Type in G for guilty if you're getting a lot of feedback from your life. Type in G for guilty if you're getting a lot of feedback from your body. How are you getting feedback? Negative attractions is giving you feedback that you're not being authentic to your values, that you're not living inspired life. How many of you agree with that? So either depressed or desperate. Depressed or desperate. If you really want to go beyond that, with realistic expectations with me, Indu's going to share a link with you right now in the chat window, which is going to be a link for paying 10,000 rupees to block your platinum deal right now. And when you block platinum right now in 10,000 rupees, you have 7 days of time to pay the rest of the balance fees of 3,75,000 rupees. But we will minus the fees that you have already paid for either advanced law fraction or any other course that you purchased through me. We will minus that fees from the platinum fees. So I'm not going to do some crazy hard selling today because I believe that people who are truly inspired here and who understand that your values and my values are matching today. And if I'm speaking to your values and if you have that conviction in me that I can help you match your values with your desires, I can help you balance your perspective, and I can truly help you live an inspired life. If you feel that connection with me as a coach, type in the word coach in the chat window, because if you don't, it's absolutely fine. I completely understand that. But those of you who do feel that there's an opening in your subconscious mind, take action and join Platinum today. Because I'm promising you, if you do the work with me, I will do the work with you. And in 365 days, you will be the person that you've never been for the last 10 years. Or it's okay, continue just doing courses, but for the next 10 years, you might keep struggling or you might go a little bit slow. Choice is yours. So option 1, join Platinum, achieve 10 years of success in 1 year. Option 2, try to do everything yourself. And remember, advanced law fraction, we are still there. The next batch is coming again live. So breakthrough experience will be conducted by me, the whole 2 days workshop for all Platinum members in the next few weeks. Those of you who are truly inspired by what you've learned with Dr. D. Martini, you need to just simply use the link Idnu's giving you one more time in the chat window to quickly block your deal with Platinum while we are taking sharing from some other members. All right, so let's see how was the session for some of you. Starting with Amol again. Yes, Amol, how was the session today and what was your biggest learning?
Thank you so much, sir, for this session.
Most welcome.
So basically, it's just a flood of wisdom. Basically, मतलब पता ही नहीं चला था कि इतना सारा नॉलेज आ रहा था कि मतलब ग्रास करने में तो जैसे आपने बोला था कि मतलब ये तो मतलब 2 बार नहीं कम से कम 4-5 बार तो देखना पड़ेगा स्लो करके तभी तो थोड़ा सा ग्रास होगा. But it's amazing and the stories which he has shared, so lot of learning that. ये मतलब अभी दिमाग में रहेगा कि अगर बॉडी में कुछ होता है तो इट्स अ सिम्पटम. वो तो हमें करना पड़ेगा, सोचना पड़ेगा कि किस वजह से ये हो रहा है. That's a great learning.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Amol. Thank you. Thank you so much, Amol. Unmute everyone, give him a high five. Congratulations for balanced perspective. I'll quickly give you that exercise before I take the next sharing with Vasudha. Everyone write down that exercise. First step of the exercise is write down someone or something that has let you down, or you have let yourself down. Some area of your life where you're disappointed, where you're not achieving the goals that you want to. And there are 2 questions that he asked you. Question number 1, if you're disappointed by somebody, let us say as an example, I'm disappointed with my friend for taking a decision that I did not want him to take. So I'm disappointed with my friend. So if I'm disappointed with him that he shouldn't have taken that decision, then what do I want him to do? Ideally, I wanted him to take a different decision towards me instead of taking that decision. Is that clear, everyone? So now I'm going to write down 20 disadvantages. 20 disadvantages of what would have happened if my friend would have done exactly what I wanted him to do. So let's say there was decision A and decision B. My friend took decision B. I'm disappointed with him because I feel he should have done decision A. So I'm going to write down 20 disadvantages of what would have happened if my friend would have actually taken decision A. Now, why is he asking you to do this exercise? You are angry with him or disappointed with your friend because you see that there are only disadvantages of he taking decision B and not taking decision A. Raise your hands if you're understanding what I'm saying so far in a simple way. Okay? Now, if you're angry with him, is that balance or imbalance? Show me your hands quickly. That's imbalance. Now, in the imbalance, what are you seeing more about him and about that decision B? Are you seeing the positives of decisions B or are you seeing the negatives? What are you seeing about that? Negatives, right? You're seeing a lot of negatives of decision B. So to balance that, he's saying first write down that if your friend would have really done the decision as per your hope, as per your wish, as per your desire, which is decision A, what would have been the 20 disadvantages for that? यानी कि जो आप चाहते हो अगर उन्होंने वही किया होता तो उसके 20 डिसएडवांटेजेस क्या होते? समझ में आ गया सबको? अब जैसे ही आप 20 डिसएडवांटेज लिखोगे तो आपके दिमाग में डिसीजन बी का क्या है? एडवांटेज है कि डिसएडवांटेज है? डिसएडवांटेज है, क्योंकि आपको बुरा लग रहा है ना कि उसने डिसीजन बी लिया। और डिसीजन ए का आपने लिख लिया 20 डिसएडवांटेजेस, यस और नो? तो क्या कर दिया आपने दोनों को मिला के? Balance कर दिया. You're seeing disadvantages of B also. You're seeing disadvantages of A also. Certain amount of balance has come. Then the second question he asked is, what are the advantages of decision B, which you are disappointed about? What are the advantages? See, you are only seeing one side of that decision B. What is that side that you're seeing? Disadvantages. That is why you're angry with your friend. That is why you're upset with your friend. Huh? So now write down 20 advantages of doing exactly what he has done. You're like, no, Mitesh, there are no advantages. That is why I'm angry with him. And he says there is nothing in the world without a balance. Everything is a balance. Look for it, identify it, and if you do this exercise properly tonight, you will experience an immediate amount of balance with your friend. Is this making sense now? Great. So that is the exercise. I'll go back to some more people for sharing. Yes, Vasudha. By the way, stay back, guys, because these sharings is what a lot of inspiration you will get from. Yes, Vasudha, go for it. If you're disappointed with yourself, same exercise for yourself. Yes, Vasudha, go for it.
Thank you, sir. It was such a wonderful session. And thank you for both of you.
Thank you.
And yeah, the main thing what I realized was more about cortex, executive mind. And what we are operating from is
amygdala. Thinking. Yeah, amygdala.
Yeah. So that was really mind-blowing. And I have one question. Can I ask it?
Let's do questions later when we get together, all the platinum members once we get together, because right now, if I get into questions, I'll be here till 12 o'clock. So we'll just do sharings for them. But I promise you, we'll be calling all of you for a recap once again. Yeah? All right. Thank you. Unmute everyone. Give her a high five. Congratulations for balanced perspective.
Congratulations for balanced
perspective. Regarding balance perspective, only one thing. I'll just ask in one question.
Go ahead.
So my father had a stroke 13 years back, and from then he had not been to any places. So last 2 weeks back, he asked that I want to visit Ayodhya and Kashi. Then I arranged for everything, and today he got a stroke and his eyes are affected. So that is making me feel very bad.
Yep.
So how to...
So it's making you feel bad because you are only seeing the disadvantages in that situation, not the advantages. If you sit and write down the advantages of that situation, you will see that everything in the universe is love, where he said that love is a superb complementary of both opposites all the time. But when we see only one side of love, then we are not in love. Love is a balanced emotion of two opposites together. If you see only disadvantages, you'll be sad and you'll not be able to handle that situation, and you'll be running, and that situation will run your mind. You'll be always thinking about it. If you're only seeing advantages, then you'll be infatuated. Infatuated means that you're looking up to it and you're like, wow, I can't live my life without this. This is so amazing. And then the disadvantages will be hidden from you and you'll face that later. The best way to do it is, in every situation of life, look for the disadvantages and the advantages both. Now, I can't do that exercise physically with you right now, but when we do the platinum exercise together, I promise you there, we're going to do this in detail practice exercise where we'll actually help you write this down. But do this tonight. Quickly think of 3 advantages that are happening right now of that situation. And I'll tell you the first advantage that you must be getting. Quickly tell me the first advantage of your father not being well right now. Don't say no, don't say no, because negative cannot exist without positive. Don't say no. What is the advantage that you're getting right now? Your family is experiencing right now. Something good has happened during this situation, but because you're not looking at it, you're not grateful about it. And because you're not grateful about it, you're not able to feel that right now. Either some family members have come together, or you are able to do things for him that you didn't get the opportunity for, or he's saying things that he never said before, or you're saying things that you never said to him before, or you're realizing the value of the situation in a way that you never realized before. There is some beautiful advantage that is happening to the situation right now. It's there, but because you're not acknowledging it, you're not feeling the gratitude for it. Give me just one advantage. Think about it. Look for it. It's there. You don't have to create it. It's there. Look for it.
I'm not getting this.
Mitesh, Modit is going.
Mudit, hey Mudit, bye-bye. So Mudit, do you want to probably say something before you leave, buddy? No, he's gone. All right. So think about that advantage. Write down that exercise tonight. And the best way to do that is by starting with hope, no, no. Because when you're doing hope, no, no, what are you doing? You're balancing your perspective. Try that. Say it right now, hands on your heart. And say, I'm really sorry for feeling. This is the worst thing that can happen right now.
This is the worst thing that can happen.
Please forgive me
Please forgive me.
for not even realizing
Not even realizing
what's the benefit of this situation, even unconsciously.
what the even unconscious.
Thank you
Thank you
for giving me and the entire family
giving me and the entire family
to live this time
to live this time
with quality and love with him.
quality and love with him.
Thank you
Thank you
for giving me the ability
for giving me the ability
to practice taking control of my frequency
to practice taking control of my frequency
so I can love him more
so I can love him more
rather than be selfish
rather than be selfish.
and think about what I am missing about him.
Think about what I am missing about him.
Instead of worrying about him,
Instead of worrying about him.
thank you for giving me the wisdom
Thank you for giving me the wisdom
to smile with him
to smile with him
and to say,
and to say,
I love you, Dad,
I love you,
and to feel that love with him.
and to feel that love with him.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Please forgive me.
Please forgive me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I love you.
I love you.
Now check how you're feeling.
Yes, sir.
Now there's a different smile on your face right now. Tears are there, but those are not the same suffering tears that you had 3 minutes ago. How many of you can see there's a big difference in her smile? Is there a difference? I didn't ask her to smile. This is her executive center coming back in mind, because your executive center understands there is a balance to life in everything. And that is why Hope No is so effective, because it humbles you when you say, I'm sorry and please forgive me. It gives you gratitude when you say thank you, and it gives you the true balance of love when you say I love you, instead of just being infatuated by life that everybody has to stay forever. Because right now, as your father is growing with age and going through all these situations, he's giving you all the opportunity to learn that this is life and accept it. And the more you love him right now, rather than being selfish, that what will you do without him, and focusing on all those negative thoughts, is that love or is that selfishness? Be honest about it.
Yes.
Yep. So it's like a little girl who's very sad that her father is going to work. And she doesn't want her father to go to work. She wants the father to be at home all the time. So it's not Vasudha crying, it's that little girl crying who's being selfish, not realizing dad has to go to work. But the grown-up Vasudha understands that. Who's the grown-up Vasudha? The grown-up Vasudha is the executive center, who's inspired, who understands reality, not fantasy. What's the reality of life, Vasudha? Be honest with me. Unlimited life or life and death balance? What is life? What is reality?
Yes, balance.
Yep. So reality of life is the balance of life and death. And when you accept that both ways, you accept it with grace rather than with disgrace. But when you cry about him, you're in that infatuation, no, this should not happen to my dad. It can happen to anybody else's dad, not my dad. But that's fantasy, isn't it? This is not supposed to happen. That's a fantasy, isn't it? It is supposed to happen. If not today, tomorrow. And if it's not going to happen to him, it's going to happen to me, it's going to happen to you, it's going to happen to somebody. We are all going to die, aren't we? Isn't that reality?
100%.
And the moment you accept that reality and when you say that 100%, now it's not that little girl coming out. Now it's that Vasudha coming out with that executive center, knowing I can handle it, can't you?
Yes.
Because now when you look at your father from now onwards, when you leave from here, every time you think about your father, you will now not think about how you are cursed that your father is going through this, how your father is cursed that you're going through this. You would think it's a curse if your fantasy is there. But you see it's a blessing that life is moving on for him, the way it is going to move on for you one day. And then you'll use that reality to love him more and be balanced during that time. Because in this moment, every time you go close to your father, mentally or physically, he's going to feel some energy from you. What energy do you want him to give right now? Balanced or the fantasy, the depression, the suppression, the cries, the tears, the drama of a little girl? What do you want to give him right now?
Balanced.
Right now, he's the little boy, and he needs you to be the grown-up. Once upon a time, you were the little girl, he was the grown-up. He used to go out, you threw tantrums, and you said, Dad, don't go, I don't want you to go. He stayed back. Sometimes he didn't stay back, but he was able to explain to you. Now, he's going, he's the little boy. You need to grow up. That's being balanced. Is that making sense?
Thank you.
Most welcome. I know you're still feeling that, but it's a different feeling. I can see it in your smile. So thank you so much for allowing us to share that with us. Unmute everyone, give her a high five. Congratulations for balanced perspective.
Congratulations for
Right, all of you unmute and give me one word. Was that any value for you, that conversation with Vasudha? Anybody else?
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Vasudha.
How many of you think we need to have these conversations more regularly, not just today? That's what I'm talking about. That's why Platinum. It's about value for your life and value for learning these things once and for all. Right, so going to a few more sharings. Rajat, go for it, buddy. How was your day today in the session? What did you learn the most? Yes, go ahead. I can hear you.
Good evening, sir. Yeah, it was amazing. It was the same realizations, the same remembrances which we had
You were there
last
last
year.
year?
Yeah. And I took those classes so seriously. It was a refresher, all the 38, 39 books which Doctor had shared, and all the details and the demargin. It's been time. I mean, this was such amazing, refresher of what we discussed. I'm looking forward to classes which you're going to have. The best part was about him telling his story from his own life. This was blowing. That you go out and test this guy, you will get electricity and you will eventually come back to me. And this is so common in our lives. We get fantasized with so many people, and at times, even out of anger, I feel, oh, I wish she was with her. And I say, I am only seeing the fantasy part of her. I'm not realizing the reality. So it was mind blowing. So thank you so much. And I have no words to share the kind of gratitude I have, because this one exercise that Doctor did cleared everything. I mean, the balance thing itself, got us so calm in our life. Everything is in the balance phase where it is right now. So thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Unmute everyone. Give him a high five. Congratulations for balanced perspective. Right, and going to Nandini. Hey, Nandini, go for it. How was the session for you? What was your biggest learning?
First of all, thank you so much. You can still see I'm completely choked. I had so many questions, and in one session, he answered to all my questions. So I couldn't control myself to believe that it's a reality. So there are many things which I learned. The first of all, how he told about depression, that it's a feedback, that it is telling you that you are not living in reality or living somewhere in fantasy. That was like, yeah, eye opener. And next thing is like, until you balance yourself, your emotions, you can't do anything productive at your productive levels. I mean, at your highest productivity until you're emotionally balanced. And one more thing which he taught was, love is always about the perfect balancing.
Yeah, perfect opposite
It's
balance.
never, it's never up and down. It's like I have been looking for matches from many years now for marriage, and whenever I used to get a match, I would be super excited that I used to start, giving that a person up on the pedestal, as D. said, like, yeah, and I always used
And
to
you would look down to yourself, so you'd be nervous in front of them because you would feel they are better than me and I'm not so great.
Yeah, so it eventually happened that it never lasted for more than few weeks. Like almost in the chat, it was like, no. It always happened to me, and I was like, what is wrong with me? Like, where exactly it is getting wrong? So today I got that answer. That
So why do you think, what was your answer that you got? Why do you think that was breaking up for you? Why was
because
it not?
I was imagining and giving that person much more importance than me. So I was like, I was not living up to my values. I was like more into his perspective. I want to impress that person. Like I want to be like a clone of the person. Yeah, and I was trying to match to his style. Next time, I would like to maintain that balance within me. First of all, I should be having emotional, clarity within me. Like these are my.
The reason your relationships break up is because when you look up to somebody and put them on the pedestal and you look down to yourself, you feel they are valuable, you are not. When you feel you are not valuable, subconsciously you feel you don't have anything to give to them, but they have everything to give to you.
Yeah.
And they can sense that when you talk to them. And when they can sense that you have nothing to add to their values, you're only impressed by their values. But you have nothing to give to them, you have nothing to add to their values. Because you don't see yourself valuable enough to add value to their life. You only see them valuable enough to add value to your life. That's when you feel, if this person was in my life, meri to life ban jayegi.
Yeah.
So they feel it and they know it. That if you come in their life, there's no value. So whenever there is no fair exchange, the relationship is going to break up. That's why you're breaking up every time. But the next time, if you can realize what your values are, and if you could be honest with yourself, okay, I am as valuable as he is. And now you're automatically balanced. So because of that, you see that you are able to add value to his value by being authentic to him. And he can see that you are feeling about yourself that high self-esteem, that I am valuable too. You are amazing, but so am I. And when he feels that you feel that, now he knows there's a fair exchange there. And because there's a fair exchange, the relationship will continue. But the relationship will break up again if you only see the positive sides about the guy and you expect him to never be bad in a relationship with you. Never to cheat you, never to look at another girl, never to come late, never to be angry with you, never shout at you, never disrespect you. All those nevers are fantasies. But the reality is he's going to be the exact opposite of everything that he is. Because everybody has both sides. And when that happens, if you are in an imbalanced perspective, you'll break up the relationship again. Because you'll be angry with him, disappointed with him. But if you could understand that that part of him is equally important to you, for him to be complete with you, then you start loving him with that balanced perspective, knowing that if I'm going to find a man who's intelligent, he is going to argue. You can't have an intelligent man without argument. Or if I am going to have a very calm man who doesn't argue, then he's going to be lazy.
True.
And if I love him, I have to love the lazy and the calm both. I can't have the calm without lazy. I can't have the intelligence without argument. I will have both. And when you accept that both, that's a beautiful balance. This is you being balanced. Then the relationship continues. Make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, I wrote this like love is about maintaining that authenticity, balancing. Like if I'm saying liking a person because of his positives, I should also write down what I would be getting as a baggage. Like,
Yes. And be ready for it.
Yeah. And one more thing was like, it was like completely into, which made me to, you know,
That's
okay.
where it broke down.
Yeah, because from childhood, I used to have this keteropalaxis. It's just a skin condition where it is blocked. Like it would be a little bit different than the rest of the skin. This I was suffering from childhood. And when D. Martini sir also said about this something, I was like, why? Then I realized that from childhood I was always so much passionate or so much carried that I have to impress my father. Like I have to make him proud. I have to do something that I would be looking, you know, that proud moment you see in your father. So from small age I had that in my, you know, mind that I have
And
to
your
do.
body was giving you feedback that you're being authentic, you're trying to do that all the time.
Yeah. So
Amazing.
I was like, oh my God. And I tried everything. I changed my routine, my food style, my workout, everything. And still it has reduced a bit, but it is still there. So I have been trying so many things from past many years, but I never imagined to link it in this perspective.
Amazing. Super realization, Nandini. I'm super proud of you the way you were able to learn and connect that. Amazing. Congratulations to you. I hope this takes you to the next level.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so
everyone,
much,
give her a high
everyone.
five. Congratulations for balanced perspective, Nandini.
Congratulations for balance.
Right, and going next to Urmi. Hey Urmi, go for it. How was the session for you?
Hi Mitesh, thank you so much. I missed the first section, but this one I didn't want to. It was so brilliant, it was so power packed. Like you said, he went really fast, but everything that he said, just hit the bullseye. I mean, you could not negate any of it. And one of the first things that I picked up, what he said is, when you're trying to work on your goals and dreams, work on things of getting in the way to get them getting on the way to your dreams. That made so much sense. It's so profound. It was really something. I actually wrote it down immediately.
Awesome.
The other thing that even Nandini was sharing, right? It's about when you are in love with somebody. It's a perfect balance. You kind of understand the package, both the positives and the negatives, and you have the authenticity to say something which is not so pleasant to the other person without having guilt, regret, or fear. Right? That is when you know that you're in a truly authentic, fulfilling relationship. So that was a great takeaway for me, but I do have quite a few questions because
we'll talk about it in Platinum later.
Yes, when you do a session, I would want to share my personal example with you so that you can help me crack the code there. But thank you so much.
Breakthrough Experience Workshop. Thank you very much. Unmute everyone, give her a high five. Congratulations for balanced perspective with me.
Congratulations for balance.
All right, Rahul, how was the experience for you? What was your best learning? Rahul, you're there? Oops, I think Rahul got disconnected. Okay, I'll come back to Rahul in a minute. Meera? Yes, go for it, Meera. How was the experience for you?
Honestly speaking, I never realized, all the happy and rosacea on my face was actually because of trying
Come a little closer to the mic. Your voice is a little low.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yeah, a little better.
So I think all my skin breakouts and my rosacea is maybe.
No, you're breaking up. Your mic is there, so only when you go there it kind of becomes clear and then it goes away again.
Is that better?
Much better.
Yeah? Okay. So I didn't realize that I had my rosacea like happy for the past trying to be a good girl, trying to be everything. Honestly speaking, tried all the medicines, and it never went away. And I didn't realize that it was because I was trying to press my mom. And the balance perspective in relationships, I was living a fantasy. I wanted to change my husband to be something I wanted him to be, and never accepted him.
Yep.
I think, honestly,
There's lots to practice tonight for you.
oh yes, a lot.
Amazing. Awesome.
But thank you
Congratulations.
so much.
Thank you very much, Meera. Thank you.
so much.
Unmute everyone, give her a high five. Congratulations for balanced perspective, Meera.
Congratulations for being
Right,
a
let's see if Rahul is come back now. Hey, Rahul. Hello. Let me unmute you.
Yes.
Come.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir. This session बहुत अच्छा था, and I have learned so many things. And last year जब ये breakthrough हुआ, and since that time I just seeing all the things balanced way. So I used to cry sometimes, somebody किसी ने death किसी का death हो गया, and sometimes, and I started seeing the balance of or death किसी के हो गया, किसी ने share किया. I'm not feeling it. I mean bad. I'm seeing positive and negative both. And this is learning एक session की नहीं है, and not breakthrough. Even though I did breakthrough, I have to learn and implement every single day, again and again. Not only one particular thing, only for health or only for relationship. Even if I want to drink, and even if I want to smoke, I have that positive and negative both sides whenever I want to do this. So even in small things, I started seeing the positive and negative.
Beautiful.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Unmute everyone, give him a high five. Congratulations for balanced perspective, Rahul. All right, let's take one more sharing for the day. And who else do we have who's not shared for a long time here? Okay, so some new couple of members also. Coming back to Dr. Vinod. Yes, Dr. Vinod, go for it.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, sir. As people, this session is also full of wisdom, and the things are still cooking in the mind. And everyone is the most important beauty, the beauty of these types of sessions, that everyone is free to accept or to reject whatsoever the wish, the capability of that person. So it's really wonderful. And I raised hand to share this, to thank you. And also, I would like to share to all of you that with your grace, with your motivation, I have uploaded my very first book. Kindle, and the series has been approved because I have planned a series of book on first series approved. I think in a day or two it will be available on Amazon.
Awesome! Congratulations for being
greatest achievement of mine. You can say the first achievement after joining you, and 15 years of my dream is going to be completed by tomorrow. Thank you.
You're truly practicing platinum standards. Congratulations, Vinod. Unmute everyone, give him a high five. Congratulations for platinum success.
Congratulations for platinum success.
All right, so as usual, as I say, no matter how many sharings I hear, it's never going to be enough for me. I would love to hear more, but it's late, 11:40, and we got to go. But before we leave, please do share your learnings in the group. If you are part of Advanced Law of Attraction, please share your learnings in the community platform. And obviously, Platinum members, please share your learnings and your experience today in the Happy Discussions group. I'd love to read it tonight before I go. With that, I had a great time. I will see the Platinum members very soon again, where we'll do a full 2 days workshop on this, because I don't think 1 or 2 hours is enough. How many of you agree with that? We'll need 2 full days with a lot of question answers. So we'll see you soon again for the 2 days workshop. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining. Thank you for learning. Thank you for helping me fulfill my values, as Dr. D. Martini said. And thank you for giving me the privilege, thank you for giving me the opportunity to add value to your life by helping you achieve your values. Indu, anything you want to say before we leave? Indu, you're there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yes. Here we go.
Hey. Thank you so much. Nothing else. Thank you so much, everyone. There are a lot of messages. I have read almost all messages. Thanks a lot. And a lot of people have got a lot of learnings, Mitesh. I don't think the messages which I have got, you have got. So I'll share that with you. Loads of people have got a lot of learnings. And best one is from Anna. Anna Sen.
Anna.
Anna. Okay, Anna. I call my friend Anna, so I'm used to calling Anna.
She's right.
Anna, yeah. Hey Anna, love you so much.
Same here. Love you guys so much. And
She's got a lot of learnings.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
Yeah, so you were saying what was her best learning? Do you want to?
She was saying, no, she's saying she's got a lot of learning. She's understood a lot of things about the situation she's going through. Then there is one more person. Her daughter has psoriasis, and she realized that why her daughter has psoriasis. So she's going to work on that. Then Anna's learnings are there. Then Kathy, and there are a lot of people who are new platinum members. They are thinking that where can they find the first lesson? So the first lesson is in the AMA. Tomorrow, as soon as Ritesh comes to work, I will ask him to post the link in the platinum and in the AMA group. Okay. So I will post the link. It will be on the Kajabi only. So you will have to log into Kajabi to go there, but I'll get it done tomorrow.
Done. So when she says Kajabi, basically our course platform.
Our course platform, yeah. And congratulations to all those who upgraded themselves to platinum. I will have a values program scheduled soon for all of you. There are 4 people who upgraded: Varsha, Sirisha, Savant, and Grenita. Congratulations.
Congratulations, welcome to the Platinum family. We'll see you soon in the orientation also on Tuesday, and we'll definitely work with you for the values training program, which is going to be a 2 full days workshop again. The next exciting thing is going to be on 16th, so let's look forward to it.
Oh yeah, kids program.
Yes, even if you're ready for the Children's Hope No workshop. Yes.
We will have, guys, we'll have fun. We'll hand over the kids to Mitesh and we'll have fun, okay?
What do you mean hand over the kids to
No, we have decided. We are going to hand over the kids to you and we'll have fun.
Alright, so what's the timing in on 16th March?
10 a.m.
10 a.m. So 16th March, 10 a.m. to about 1 p.m. 2 hours, 3 hours, depending on how much children can tolerate me and how much I can handle them. So be there on 16th March at 10 o'clock. And how many of you still have a child inside you? I mean, not in your house, inside you. Yeah, so you're also welcome for the workshop. You don't only have to send your children for that, okay? Awesome. So with that, thank you very much everyone again for giving us the opportunity to add value to your life and adding value to our life. Looking forward to meet you again on 16th morning and of course tomorrow at DMP. Platinum members, as usual, tomorrow 9:30 starts support practice session again. Unmute all of you. Good night, and I love you.
Thank you very much for allowing me to.
Good night. I love you to all.
Love you all. Bye.
I love you, and I look forward to reading your messages in the group.
Recording stopped.